People love saying the same thing to gamers.
You are wasting your time.
I heard that idea for years, sometimes directly, sometimes indirectly, sometimes just through the look on people's faces when they heard how much I cared about games. And for a long time, even I wondered if they were right. I thought maybe all those hours were just gone. But when I look at my life now, I don't see wasted time. I see training. I see years of learning how to adapt, how to stay calm, how to communicate, how to solve problems, how to keep going after a failure, and how to get better without anyone forcing me to do it. So when people say gaming gave me nothing, I can't agree anymore. Because gaming didn't just entertain me, it built me. And I want to ask you something early, because this is where the whole video starts. Have you ever looked back at your gaming years and wondered if they meant more than people gave them credit for? I have, and this is my story. When I was young, we really did not have much. We lived frugal because we had to. We had the basics. A bed, couch, a TV, a table. My parents could not spoil me and buy me whatever I wanted, but my dad always tried his best to make sure I never felt less than other kids. If my best friend got a bicycle, my dad would try to get me one too. Maybe not the same, maybe not the expensive version, but something close enough so I would still feel included. That was his way. I saw that later in life. Back then, I just felt love. One day he took me downstairs to a neighbor in our apartment building. They had a boy around my age, and that boy had something I had never really seen up close before. A dandy 8-bit console. Yellow cartridges, a controller, Bomberman on the TV. I was fascinated immediately. I wanted to play so badly, but the kid would not let me touch it. He was one of those kids that wanted you to watch him have fun instead of sharing it. So I just stood there, quiet, staring at the screen, trying not to show how badly I wanted that feeling for myself. I remember that, and my dad noticed. A little later, he came home with a surprise. He had spent his salary money and bought us our own console. My mother was not exactly happy about it, because we were not in the kind of situation where that was an easy purchase. But for me, that moment was magic. That was where gaming began for me. Then it grew. It became Dr. Mario, Tanks, Super Mario, Ninja Turtles, Contra, Sonic, and all those early moments that felt bigger than life when you were a kid. Then came the PC era. My dad and I were both obsessed at that point. We competed, argued over turns, and I used to call for my mom like a referee because my dad was not giving me my controller. Somehow, I usually won that case. I did. And then we got our first PC. Games on floppy disks. Jazz Jackrabbit, Doom, keyboard and mouse. That was not just me playing after school. That was me starting to train without knowing I was training. I thought I was just having fun. Do you remember a moment like that in your life too, where gaming stopped being just a toy and started becoming part of who you were? Because I do. The big realization came much later. As a kid, you do not sit there and say, wow, this hobby is developing my transferable skills for future career growth. No child talks like that unless something has gone very wrong. You just play, you get excited, you fail, you retry, you stay up thinking about the next level, the next build, the next boss, the next upgrade. You keep going because you want to, not because someone is grading you. But adulthood has a funny way of revealing where your habits really came from. Years later, I started seeing parts of myself in real life situation and realizing, wait a minute, I know this feeling. Walking into a new workplace and figuring things out fast, trying new software without panicking, going into interviews without collapsing under pressure, leading people, reading personalities, adapting when plans fall apart. I had seen this before, but not in a classroom, in games. That was the moment it clicked for me. Gaming was never the opposite of growth. In many ways, gaming was one of the first places where growth became exciting to me. I realized that. Games train adaptability better than people understand. Every new game throws you into a new world with new systems, new rules, new controls, new enemies, and new ways to fail. At first, you know nothing, and you test things. Then you improve. Then what felt impossible starts feeling normal. That is adaptability. And later in life, that same pattern helped me everywhere. New software at work, new environments, new people, new responsibilities. I did not freeze as hard as other people sometimes did because I had already spent years being dropped into unfamiliar worlds and learning how to survive in them. I learned that. Gaming made me solution-oriented. When something went wrong in a game, I did not just stare at the screen and complain forever. I looked for patterns, I changed approach, I tried again. I learned what did not work and moved closer to what did. Boss fights teach that. Hard quests teach that. PvP teaches that brutally. And real life is not very different. At work, in money problems, in life pressure, in family situations, I learned to ask a better question. Not, why is this happening to me? But, what do I do next? Gaming taught me something many people still struggle with. Repetition is not punishment when you understand progress. Gamers know what grinding is. We know that getting better is rarely dramatic. It is often boring. It is often repetitive. It is often invisible for a while. And then one day it clicks. You move better, you think faster, you react cleaner, understand more. That mindset carried into my life in a huge way. Practice stopped scaring me. Repeating something stopped insulting my ego. I became more comfortable being bad before becoming good. I am still using that. Games also trained me to function under pressure. Clutch moments, ranked games, dungeons, raids, last chances, bad odds, limited time. A lot can happen in games that forces your brain to stay active while your stress goes up. That matters in real life, in a big way, because interviews are pressure, leadership is pressure, family responsibility is pressure, financial struggle is pressure. And I'm not saying games made me fearless. They did not. I'm saying games made pressure familiar. That is a very different thing. I thought that was normal for everyone. It is not. This is probably one of the biggest hidden advantages gamers carry without realizing it. Have you ever noticed that something stressful in real life felt strangely familiar? Almost like your brain had already practiced staying calm? I have. The biggest examples for me came later through MMORPGs. That is where gaming stopped being just mechanics and became people. In games like Lineage 2 and World of Warcraft, I learned communication in a way that felt real. Not polished, not corporate, not rehearsed, real. Different personalities, different moods, different skill levels, different egos, different expectations. That is basically a workplace with dragons. You learn quickly that just being good is not enough. You need to explain clearly. You need to read the room. You need to keep people focused. You need to adapt when somebody panics, when somebody underperforms, when somebody does not understand the plan, or when everything falls apart in the middle of the run. I did. That helped me in real life more than I expected. It helped me socialize better. It helped me become more comfortable speaking to different kinds of people, even about topics I did not know much about at first. It helped me during job interviews. A job interview to me started feeling less like Judgment Day and more like a first-time dungeon or a boss I had never seen before. You do not know every mechanic. You do not know every question, but you start alert. You read the room and you adapt in real time, because I did. And then there is leadership. People hear manager and sometimes imagine a title, a desk, meetings, pressure, and politics. But underneath all of that, leadership is often simpler than people think. Can you coordinate people? Can you stay calm? Can you make decisions with incomplete information? Can you solve problems quickly? Can you keep people moving when frustration starts rising? That sounds very familiar to anyone who has ever led in games. I'm not saying gaming handed me a management role like a free item drop. I am saying it built the traits that made that role possible. I know that now. So was gaming a waste of time? For me, no. Not even close. Could it become unhealthy? Of course, anything can, especially if it replaces your life instead of supporting it. I know that too, but that is not the same as saying it had no value. Gaming gave me more than entertainment. It gave me repetition without boredom, failure without finality, pressure without real-world destruction, leadership without a title, communication without formal training, adaptability without a classroom. And that matters, because when I look at the person I became, I can see pieces of gaming everywhere inside me, in how I think, in how I work, in how I recover from mistakes, in how I stay composed, in how I keep improving. That is why I cannot call it wasted time. What looked like just gaming was in many ways a training ground. Messy sometimes, excessive sometimes, escapist sometimes, but still a training ground. I admit that, and maybe that is true for more people than we think. What if the years you were told to be ashamed of actually built some of the strongest parts of you? I have asked myself that, and my answer is yes. When my father brought that console home, he probably thought he was just making his son happy. A risky purchase, a loving one, an expensive one for our situation, but that gift became much more than entertainment. It became the beginning of a mindset, a way of learning, a way of dealing with pressure, a way of growing without even realizing it. And when I look back now, I feel gratitude more than guilt. Because gaming did not take my life away from me. It helped shape it. So if you ever feel ashamed of the time you spent gaming, maybe look again. Maybe it taught you more than anyone ever gave it credit for. Maybe it helped build your discipline, your communication, your resilience, your curiosity, your ability to keep going. It did for me. I know that now. And that is why I will say it clearly. Gaming was never a waste of time. What real life skill did gaming teach you that still helps you today? That is the question I would really love to hear your answer to. Thank you for watching.